Hey, Foot Clan, do you want to be a part of this show? Do you enjoy the fantasy footballers? Then head over to jointhefoot.com, join our growing fantasy football community, get exclusive content from the show, and fantastic things. Jointhefoot.com.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
We're back again.
Guess whoa.
We're back. It's Wednesday. It's hump day.
That was a rising locomotive.
Was it all right?
Of energy. I enjoyed it very much.
We're back again. We are the Fantasy Footballers, and we are here. It's December 15th. Somehow Christmas is around the corner.
Well, because it's December.
No. I'm not somehow Christmas. Like, it was more of a new line, a new sentence.
Oh, okay.
Like, Christmas is around the corner. Thoughts?
Closer.
Thoughts on Christmas? Pro-Christmas?
I am pro-Christmas. I love Christmas.
All right. Well, I mean, it is, near the end of the fantasy football regular, our 2015 season. I thought maybe.
That's not the favorite part about it.
Right. That
just
part's not as good.
The season. My Christmas tree went up on November 1st, though.
I know.
So.
I know. You're a wild man.
A true
wild
story.
Christmas man.
I used to be ultimate Scrooge and Grinch. I did not enjoy Christmas. I let the bad aspects of just the busyness, congestion at all the stores. I let that
commercialization.
Get to me. I let it bring me down.
But now you have kids.
But have really since I had children. Now Christmas is just fantastic.
Magical.
It is. It is truly magical, and it's also not 100 freaking degrees outside. So there's that.
Well, us Arizonans know how to enjoy not 100 degrees weather. That's for sure. So. Welcome to the show. We got a good one. We got our sits of the week on the show today. Going to do a little trivia for the fantasy season. Going to jump into the mailbag, answer questions. And we also have a special guest on the show today who is none other than Nando Di Fino of the Fantasy Sports Network, one of our favorite people in the industry and has been for years. Gotta love the Fantasy Sports
the
Network.
Notorious Nando Di Fino.
Yes. So that will be exciting, and we'll talk to him. You can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. Check us out. As I said, Nando's from the Fantasy Sports Network. You can also watch our show on the Fantasy Sports Network. You can watch it on YouTube. Subscribe to us on YouTube, on iTunes, and elsewhere where podcasts are found, which is a lot of places. There are a lot of really good apps out there. So what else do we got going on, guys? Do you want to just get right into the trivia?
Yeah, I believe I am prepared. I'm trying to focus the brain.
Now, Jason took this last time.
I got a cycle. No, yes, he did. That is correct.
Okay.
That is correct. I'm going to the memory banks, getting everything lubed up in my brain.
Okay.
Uh-oh.
Well, we'll stay back a couple
It'll be
feet.
a slippery show.
You need the file cabinets of the memory to be.
I use an SSD.
So your brain is a solid state.
That's right. You can't tell that by now? All right.
I know there's no moving parts in your brain, if that's what you're inferring.
Yes, that is what I'm inferring. All right, I am having the best season of my career. I've only scored in single-digit fantasy points one time this year. I've already eclipsed my season high for touchdowns, but despite not being considered the starter from the first day of camp. I've only thrown for 300-plus yards one time, but I'm a quarterback one. So who am I?
Ooh.
Wow.
I'm going to give you limited time on this, too.
Not considered.
Oh, I got it. I got mine.
Considered. Oh, you're a jerk. Not considered the starter.
I thought I had it all the way up until that one.
Yeah, I
Not
got
considered the starter was the hard part. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yep.
That is correct.
I got that.
That is correct. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Impressive year for Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Absolutely.
Sure. Had a little bit of a lull where you heard rumblings in New York about, would you consider a switch back to Geno, blah, blah, blah. They had gone on a great start, got back to 500, and now they won 3 in a row on the arm of Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think I said his name, Ryan's Fitzpatrick there, but Ryan Fitzpatrick.
He's as good as 2.
All right. So you both got that one. Let's see if you get this one. I too am having the best season of my career. I had an average draft position of 55 for wide receivers in PPR leagues. I'm the only player in the top 18 in fantasy points without 65-plus catches and 100 targets. Yet, I'm a wide receiver 1 who has only eclipsed 100 yards twice.
I think I got it.
I think I've got it too.
Let
but
Mike
I feel
answer
like,
first this
okay.
time.
We're going to stay in the flames with Doug Baldwin.
Oh, that's a good one. I think he's been over 100. Oh, does it say twice? That's a
Just
great
give
guess.
me another answer.
I feel like this is my answer every other week is the Eric Decker, Allen Hurns wide receiver 2 guy. I'm going to go with Eric Decker.
It is Doug Baldwin.
Oh,
Yes.
It
my
is Doug
boy.
Baldwin. He is
Yes.
having a heck of a year.
Yeah, and I saw a stat of that we need to keep in mind with Doug Baldwin. Before the bye, there was a 3-game stretch where he was averaging about 4 points
I know.
per game.
I've seen Doug Baldwin play football before. I've seen it for years, and there have been games where he flashed,
He streaks.
and you start him, and then you're disappointed. But it's different right now because I think Wilson's just so on fire, and the passing game options have reduced the running game. I don't know. He's on fire. I'm starting him over a lot of guys this week.
He's like the 3-point shooter in basketball. When it's just going, you give him the ball because it's going to go in the net every single
Feed
time.
him, and he's a good player.
Yes.
He's never not been a good player.
Yeah.
It's been the offense is Marshawn Lynch. The offense is, good for a game, off for 2 games, no passing game. All right, let's see if you guys get this one. Mike got that one. This one's really tough. Unlike the last 2 players, I'm only having the second best year of my career.
Okay.
3rd most rushing touchdowns. Despite not starting in about half of my team's games, I was able to eclipse 20 points in 5 of those games. The league's 2nd highest scoring fantasy running back since
That's easy.
week
This
9.
is easy peasy.
Too much information in
Yeah,
here.
too much info. That I was.
Well, what's the name?
You got it, Mike?
No, actually, I don't.
Easy peasy. Well, think about one, a guy who hasn't played in half of the games, and 2, has had an incredible season before, right? Because
This is his second best year.
I'm the part that's eluding me is the missing half his games.
D'Angelo Williams.
That is correct. That is
yes.
correct.
All I could think of was Doug Martin, and I couldn't get him out of my head.
What was impressive to me is that this is the second best year of his career post his prime, right? Like he had that monster year that I remember picking him up. I don't even remember the name of the guy I traded for him anymore.
It was
Donnie
nobody.
Avery.
That's right.
Donnie Avery I traded for D-Will right before he went on that massive tear, took me to a final. But this is his second best year despite not playing in the full slate of games. So
Makes sense.
a great guy to have in the fantasy playoffs, that's for sure. So let's go ahead and get to a little bit of news and notes before we move on to what do we have next? What are we doing? Sits?
Yep, sure.
Or are we going to bring Nando in?
We'll go to Nando before the sits. How
Okay.
about that?
All right, let's get to the news.
News and notes from around the league.
Do we actually have any news?
There's not a ton, but the standouts
The
the standouts. Jordan Matthews not practicing, and there's some good news from the Joe Hayden front that we do expect him to fully recovery, and this.
but next year.
Yes,
Yeah.
next year, and this was a legitimate concern for the Cleveland Browns that Joe Hayden had been getting concussed so much that maybe Hayden's going to shut it down. He's been one of the best corners of this generation. His play's really deteriorated, but so we're happy to hear this for Hayden that he'll make.
Well, and
a
he was
full
one of
recovery.
the 3 that all got paid, right? Between Peterson,
Right.
Hayden, and Sherman. Now, Andre Ellington is not practicing as well. This is good news for David Johnson. The injury for Johnson last week, for those that didn't hear, it was just a thigh bruise. That's why he was off for a little while and came back on. Everybody in the world thought the Cardinals were insane. Johnson was playing so well, and then they brought in Stephen Taylor for the goal line who got stuffed, but it was an injury. Is there anything else we need to mention?
I want to hit the breaking news button.
Breaking news.
Up in New England, Brandon Bolden is an option for the New England Patriots. Sorry.
Yeah.
That's the best summary for their backfield that I've ever heard. Guys are different. Different guys are options.
Yep. That with that though,
How do you not get mad at the John Fox aspect of that?
Well, because we have respect for Bill
That's
Belichick.
correct. That is correct.
That goes a long way.
Blunt was on crutches, which is not a good sign.
That was the news yesterday.
Yeah, so I think Brandon Bolden's going to be involved.
I do too. I like Brandon Bolden as a going way back, a sneaky snart. Do you remember that, Mike?
Yeah.
That's really
yeah,
old.
sneaky
That's even
snart.
that's an inside joke for me and you.
That's the
So,
throwback snarts
really
of the week.
Throwback, yeah. All right, so Before we get into our sits in the mailbag, we do want to welcome in Nando Di Fino of the Fantasy Sports Network and ask him some questions about everything that's going on this week. Important week for fantasy owners, so let's go ahead and do that right now.
You talking to me?
The Fantasy Footballers are pleased to bring in special guest Nando Di Fino from the Fantasy Sports Network. We have he's been in the biz for quite some time, so it's pretty awesome for us to get him on the show and get some hot takes for the weekend. What's going on, Nando?
Not much, man. How are you guys doing?
We are doing well. I was doing better last week when I was in our fantasy playoffs, and I'm now currently out, but I'm surviving. So we want to help the listeners stay in their leagues, and we want to talk about the running back situation. We had some injuries. We had Thomas Rawls go down. We know that he's out. Jonathan Stewart went down with a foot sprain. We have to believe that he's going to get rested. So there's just situations all over for these fantasy playoff teams that they need running backs. Now, waivers may have run for some teams, but there's other teams that they haven't run yet. So we want to run through guys. And Yeldon, he's another guy who's possibly out. So we got Denard Robinson, Tim Hightower. Let's start there at the top because I think those are kind of the unanimous top two guys. Which one of those are you targeting?
For me, it's Hightower, just because we know he's going to get those carries. I don't think C.J. Spiller is really a threat. The Denard Robinson situation, I like him a lot. I like him better than Hightower. But the situation's it's weirdly fluid. If I had to do it today, it would be Hightower. If I found out tomorrow that Yeldon was going to be out for 3 weeks, it would be Robinson. Just because of the timing right now, though, it's got to be the guy who's coming off a 28-carry game, as opposed to the guy who might or might not play, depending on the injury status.
Absolutely. So let's throw in then the guys from Seattle. We got DeJuan Harris. We do have a situation with Bryce Brown, who was recently signed, and head coach Pete Carroll has said they're going to fight it out for the starting position. What do you make of that, of what's going on in Seattle?
Yeah, I don't know if you guys are the same way, but I was stunned. Like, for the last 3 weeks, I've been dumping, like, my wide receivers and backup tight ends, whatever, on my bench for handcuffs, and one of them was Fred Jackson. And I really thought Fred Jackson would just slide right in, and it didn't happen. So I'm putting them behind even like Fozzie Whitaker right now, because it seems like they're just going to kind of cannibalize each other, and it's going to be one of those Ronnie Hillman, C.J. Anderson mid-season situations where no one runs away with it. I like how he says we're not going to go with a two-back approach. Like the Pete Carroll quote was kind of like, we're going to have a competition to see who's a starter. But I don't know if that really kind of eliminates the 15 carry versus 8 carry for each guy kind of scenario.
I'm having the only problem I have with ignoring the situation myself is I keep seeing that Cleveland matchup on the schedule and just realizing that somebody's probably going to do something there. But I'm having a hard time prioritizing those guys right now without seeing practice reports and seeing which guy's going to be that lead dog.
If you look at it like, so those two might split. But if you got someone like a Fozzie Whitaker, who, if Jonathan Stewart's in that walking boot and he's out for a week, maybe two, Whitaker's going to get, let's say, 80 to 85% of the work there. Whereas it could be Bryce Brown getting 55, Fred Jackson getting 15, and then DeJuan Harris just kind of falling off if his yards per carry don't look great, or he's not cutting well, he's not blocking the quarterback well. It just seems like one could take off. It's conceivable, but it's tough.
And Russell Wilson might be the fill-in in some regard.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now getting over to the Fozzie Whitaker side. We're of the belief here, there's been some reports recently, and they came from preseason and on, that if something were to happen to Jonathan Stewart, it would actually be the rookie Cameron Artis-Payne as the guy that comes in. Do you think that Cameron Artis-Payne is going to be able to take that? I mean, you're saying Fozzie's going to get 85% of the workload there. Do you discount those reports on Cameron Artis-Payne or not think he's going to be involved?
Yeah, my guess is that they're 13-0. They got a veteran who's, I'm assuming, because Cameron Artis-Payne hasn't played nearly as much as Fozzie Whitaker, especially last week. I think it's going to be you go with a veteran who can block for Cam Newton, who can fit that role. Cameron Artis-Payne might be kind of like a Giants Andre Williams situation where he's green. Like maybe he's not good catching passes yet. Maybe he's not good blocking yet. And Fozzie Whitaker, if he only gives you 70% of what Jonathan Stewart was able to, it's better than Cameron Artis-Payne, who could just be a disaster and isn't ready to kind of take up that mantle. I think if this Carolina team was 6-7 at this point, it'd be a different story. But right now, I think they're going to go with a veteran who kind of can fit in the role, do what he's got to do, and kind of help them tread water until Jonathan Stewart comes back.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. Now, one of the more trepidatious situations in fantasy at the running back position is the New England backfield pretty much any week. But if Blunt, they said he's on crutches today, if he's out, would you consider streaming Bolden in that position? Or do you think more carries would go to White? Or how do you see that situation breaking down? Because obviously you have a top offense and some opportunities on the goal line there. 16 carries for Bolden last week.
Yeah, I think that kind of speaks to Bolden taking that role, and he can catch passes too. Whereas James White, I don't think he's your typical rusher. Even Bolden's a big-ish kind of guy, like bigger than you would expect him to be.
He runs hard too.
Yeah, he fits that blunt role a little better than I think James White does. And at this point, with the way things are going with the Patriots, if you trot White out there and he gets hurt, you've kind of eliminated the pass-catching back.
Right.
Bolden can go in there and he can run, and then if something goes awry, maybe you bring in Christian Michael or bring in Jonas, pick someone off another team's practice squad. But if you lose James White right now, you already lost Lewis, you lose White, you've kind of lost that role. So I think he does have value there. They don't want to risk him running the ball hard.
So let's move on to the quarterback position. And we're going to talk the streamers, and there's also the people who they've lost Andy Dalton. He's gone. He cannot help their team anymore. So let's talk about potential replacements for the quarterback. Now we got Alex Smith in a matchup against Baltimore. We saw Alex Smith do very Alex Smith-like things, but there was last week. But there was some nasty weather in that game. Are you still confident buying into a guy like Smith, or would you rather go with a guy like Ryan Fitzpatrick, who is red hot, but he takes on Dallas, who's a bit of a tougher defense?
I think I would go with Fitzpatrick. I tend to lean more talent than matchup because weird things can happen in games. Alex Smith is you look at him, and I know he's prone to a 4-touchdown game or something, but 230-yard cap. If he's not hitting Macklin, I don't know who he's going to hit. Spencer Ware's out, so maybe that helps him a little bit because he'll throw more to Sharkhandrick West, I would guess. But if you just want to go to right to A.J. McCarron, for me, if you look at Blaine Gabbert, had some pretty good games. Blake Bortles had some pretty good games. A.J. McCarron isn't exactly, not a first-round pick, but he was a Heisman runner-up. He's got some talent. He's got the right attitude. He got to be ready coming in. I would put McCarron ahead of someone like Alex Smith.
Yeah,
too.
That's hot.
I like
Nando,
it.
that's hot.
I like hearing it. That's
the hot take that you wanted.
That's my stream of the week right there. You're a smart man. So here's a question that I think a lot of playoff teams are really struggling with. They might have the alternative middle of the tier guy options on their team, like a Stafford or a Bortles or someone that is not. I guess Bortles is pretty hot right now, but someone middle of the line, not waiver fodder, but not someone you normally start. And then also on their roster, they've got Big Ben Roethlisberger going up against that Denver D. Do you just roll with Big Ben because he's Big Ben, or do you roll with that middle of the Fitzpatrick even? Would you rather play a Fitzpatrick?
The talent versus matchup thing he was just saying. So do you side that way with quarterbacks too?
Yeah, I would put Look, if this is a game where they break down the Denver defense, Pittsburgh has enough weapons to do it through the running game, through the passing game, whatever. I wouldn't even have that second quarterback on my roster. I'd be filling up my entire bench with handcuffed running backs just in case of some kind of weird injury killing me for my championship game, just looking ahead an extra week. I would roll with Roethlisberger. I know, look, you got to be afraid of the Denver defense, but I think on the flip side, the Denver defense has to be a little afraid of Ben Roethlisberger. And if he could exploit some holes and hit Martavis Bryant for a couple long passes and Antonio Brown 8 times, 120 yards, it's doable. I mean, people have done things against Denver before. So I'm going with Ben Roethlisberger, and I'm cutting the other quarterback.
All right. That's my opinion, too. I've had a hard time convincing these guys, and obviously with the 0-touchdown week for Ben last week, it was a little discouraging, but you had the game flow with McCarron and Dalton and all that stuff. So I'm with you on starting Big Ben. But Denver's pretty good.
And so,
yeah, you can't deny that. It's just, once in a while these things happen. Oh, remember that game in Week 15 where Denver gave up 400 passing yards.
Well, and a lot of it, too, it's like I don't want to lose with Big Ben on my bench, having him perform well and having streamed Matt Stafford and said, oh, my goodness, the guy that got me here, now I'm going to roll out a matchup play and lose that way. Sometimes it's just how you can tolerate your losses.
Exactly. You save the matchup stuff for the daily games. Roethlisberger got you here in season long. You stick with Roethlisberger.
Yeah.
So thank you so much to Nando Di Fino. We know that he is a extremely busy man up at the Fantasy
He's got to
Sports
keep
Network.
up with Pat Mayo. That's got to be exhausting.
Yeah. Impossible. Don't even. I don't even try.
So last question, Nando. Are you going head-to-head with me and Pat in Fantasy Bachelor?
Oh, yeah, man. I've been in the last two, and I've been terrible at it. But I like it. It's so much fun.
Yeah, I was horrific in the Bachelorette, so I'm looking to regain my street cred as a Fantasy Bachelor superstar. So I'll be dishing out those hot takes.
Now, you guys are all doing a podcast together, too, right? Is that
I'm in.
a daily
Bachelorette
podcast?
It's easier than the Bachelorette. So this is my bread and butter.
So thank you to Nando. Hey, Nando, where can our listeners find you on Twitter?
Just Nando Di Fino. Try spelling that. Good luck. Come find me.
Have you thought about changing the handle?
No. The fewer questions I have to answer on Sunday mornings, the
That's
happier I am.
smart. Very strategic.
You gotta work.
I like
You
it.
gotta work for that.
All right, thanks, Nando. And
Appreciate
hope to
it.
catch up with you next time.
All right, guys, take it easy. Thank you.
That was great to have Nando on the show. It's interesting that we have some different takes on our waiver guys, so it'll be great to see Nando versus the Ballers on Cameron Artis-Payne.
Well,
on
honestly, it's not even
Harris.
to me on the Harris and the Artis-Payne situation. It's like the weather report a few days before it's appropriate to tell you whether it's going to rain or not, because
Right.
we can't see the cloud patterns that are coming from Peach Cobbler and from the Jonathan Stewart foot yet. Those are things that it's hunches.
Yeah,
it's
and-
hunches based on information, but it's hunches because we haven't seen enough.
Information comes out all the way up till game time. So we drop our Twitter handles a lot of the times in the beginning of the show or at the end of the show. But in the playoffs, this is a good time. If you want to follow us for that, that's where sometimes we're done recording for the week.
It happened with DeMarco Murray this past week.
We're done recording. There's no other format, no other medium to be able to get it out. So we'll
We've
post
thought
something
about
on
door to
Patreon
door, though.
or we have mailers.
Yeah.
But Patreon
hangers
and
are
Twitter.
They're expensive. To the door hangers.
Well, and there's quite a few doors to knock on.
Yeah.
And I would say DeMarco Murray, fourth string running back this morning. Fourth string. Play Darren Sproles.
what kind of what door knocking sound effect is that?
I knock with a wooden spoon. I bring my wooden spoon around. Woo! Saved that, didn't I?
Right. I have fantasy information, and if you have a stew that needs stirring, then
correct.
I'm your man.
Multi-purpose. All right, let's get into the sits.
Sits of the week.
I do the screaming until you fix that drop.
Here's a little hint for the Foot Clan. I could have fixed that last night, but I got trapped in Azeroth.
Whoa.
Ooh.
It's a little. If you know what we're talking
Oh,
about,
my goodness.
then you know what we're talking about.
Yeah, that gives them confidence. All right, Jason, who do you got as your sit of the week at the quarterback position?
My sit of the week this week is going to be Mr. Ryan Tannehill. Tannehill has what looks to be a decent matchup. San Diego. Could be high scoring. I am not saying that Ryan Tannehill can't have a good game. I'm saying that I cannot
You're
trust
saying he
him.
won't.
I'm saying I cannot trust whether or not he will, and there's no situation where I would choose to start Ryan Tannehill going into this week. You have
Sounds like the story I told myself in my head about 4 weeks ago.
Yeah,
about Ryan Tannehill.
and that's what you've seen. You've seen a week where he throws for 350 and 3 touchdowns against the Jets, a great D, and then the next week 86 yards for 1 touchdown
So you're
against
playing-
Baltimore, a bad passing D. You have no rhyme or reason for what goes on with the play calling in Miami, and I am avoiding Ryan Tannehill this week. Sit him. This is the playoffs.
A.J. McCarron or Ryan Tannehill?
I would feel more confident
Ooh.
starting A.J.
That's
McCarron
hot.
than Ryan Tannehill.
That's a hot take. I know who's calling the plays in Miami. It's Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill is the new play caller.
Uh-oh.
That's
Oh,
why
it's just-
Lamar Miller carries the ball.
What's
12
incredible
times.
is the entire offense, and, the head coach, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, all switched. Play calling still suspect. All right,
Everyone hates Lamar Miller.
yeah, what's he doing? I don't know. Marcus Mariota is my sit of the week. Yes, he's had some big-time games over the last 5 or 6 weeks. But listen, the Pats are shutting down quarterbacks, fantasy quarterbacks. Mike mentioned it yesterday. I said that I was a little bit afraid because when you play a defense that is against somebody who's had like a 40, 50-point week, it gives you a little bit of hesitation. That being said, we saw Mariota last week. The weapons, he doesn't have them right now in the passing game. He only produced fantasy-wise because he caught a touchdown pass.
He turned into the passing weapon.
Right, it's a pass to himself by calling that play. But 20 or less points for fantasy quarterbacks against the Patriots the last 4 games, and that's the number I want to key in on, and the reason why I would start somebody other than Marcus Mariota.
And my sit of the week, we put our brains together, and we thought, we got to be bold. Who are we going to sit down? And we're sitting down Russell Wilson because
yes. Honorary
sit of the week.
I exempt myself from that.
So we're sitting him down for you, Foot Clan.
So that you can play
Yeah,
him.
but seriously, play him. He's been really good. He's been really good.
That's a joke.
If this is the first time you're listening to the show and you don't know,
Yeah, that makes no sense.
you don't know why we're sitting Russell Wilson, we're sitting him so that you can start him.
Yes. I know it doesn't make much sense. Just play him and you'll find out why.
Yeah, but totally a big sit.
Thank
Big
you.
time
We
sit.
almost missed that.
My actual sit of the week, Eli Manning. I know he's coming off a fire type game. Carolina Panthers coming into town, one of the best passing defenses in the league. I hope that the play callers for the Giants are smart enough to say, Odell Beckham, you play in the slot, 25, 30% of the time. We're going to keep doing that so that Josh Norman is not covering you. Unlike in Atlanta, the buffoonery, I will go there, the buffoonery of not playing Julio in the slot at all. So I'm not saying Odell Beckham's going to have a bad game. I just don't trust Eli Manning in this situation.
That's very fair. So running back wise, who are you sitting down, Mike?
I'm sitting down Buck Allen. He takes on the Chiefs, and he was on the ground last week against Seattle, 8 for 14. That's a feat. That is a feat for Buck Allen. I know he's still got the 5 catches, so he has PPR value.
42 feet. 42 total feet gained.
But the Chiefs are great. We need to get an update on Justin Houston, which we say every week because he's a defensive changing player. But even without Justin Houston, the Chiefs are on fire. The Chiefs are gunning for the playoffs. They're in the playoffs right now. They control their own destiny. They keep winning. They stay in the playoffs. I don't like Buck Allen. And throw on top of that Jimmy Clausen as your quarterback.
Well, and that's what hurt Buck Allen too, not having, Schaub at least showed he could dump it off to Clausen 8 times in the game prior.
12 times.
By the way, Justin Houston's replacement, 3 sacks. 3 sacks last week. So they're getting it done. My running back sit of the week, I'm going to go with,
I hadn't seen it until now.
Run DMC?
Oh, I was looking at Jason's.
Oh, no. Run DMC. I'm sitting down Darren McFadden. The Jets' D is stout against the run. You saw Turbin get some work last week. I just don't think that Darren McFadden's going to get enough going on the ground. Yes, he's probably, if he's better than other options you have to roll him out there because it's playoff time. But there are a lot of guys we talked about on the waiver show yesterday that I would, depending on how things shake out, would I play Denard Robinson over Run DMC? I probably would this week with the matchup. So I'm going to sit down McFadden comparatively to some of those other options.
Yeah, I probably would have taken him as mine if I didn't already have other options from Dallas. We're not, one of the things that happened towards the end of the year is teams start playing for different reasons. The Jets are playing for the playoffs. They're in it. But if they went out and the Steelers went out, they're out. So they have to be winning these games. Their season, their playoffs are on the line, and Dallas is kind of wilted, and their last chance was over. So that matchup's not one I like. But at running back, for me, my set of the week is going to be Ronnie Hillman.
Yeah. Ronnie
Hillman got his opportunity last week, and he did very, very little with it. This week, you've got C.J. Anderson has been the more of the pass catching back, and you've got the matchup against the Steelers, who also need to win to get in, and so you've got the number 2 run defense fantasy wise. You've got C.J. Anderson probably getting back, a higher scoring, a fair game, which is bad for the running. So I just don't like anything with Ronnie Hillman.
Give me that. Give me his running numbers from last week.
Last week, he got the ball 12 times.
How many yards?
20.
He had an 11-yard run.
So that means 10 yards or 10 carries for 9 carries for 9 yards.
Math.
All right, so
Good work, Jason.
who's your wide receiver sit?
I'll take it. My sit of the week, Brandon LaFell. He's averaging only 30 yards the last 3 weeks. People keep believing it's going to happen. I had been one of those believers until the last few weeks because he was very good.
Heavily
last
targeted.
year. He was heavily targeted. He was not dropping balls. I believe he had about 6 drops on the entire year. He has surpassed that in his in limited work this year. I just
he
don't
didn't
think
play
it's
the first half of the year.
That's what I mean. I just don't think it's going to happen for LaFell. Something strange is going on. Tom Brady still is taking shots to him, so a big play absolutely could happen. But would I start
They
him
haven't
this?
yet. Yeah.
Would I start? No, I would not start Brandon LaFell.
All right, I'm going to go with Jordan Matthews, a guy I just plain can't trust. You know, he's had some garbage time touchdowns that have saved his fantasy days. Bad week last week. The Cardinals secondary is very good. This is a Sunday night game. The Cardinals are 7th against wide receivers, so I just don't like it for Jordan Matthews. It's a trust issue with him. It's not necessarily that he can't do it. It's that I just don't know if he will, and I feel like where he slots in on my team at this point, he's not somebody I want to trust comparatively. I'd rather put some other guys out there.
Who do you trust?
Well, I'll tell you who you
you don't get that reference? Oh.
I'll tell you who you don't trust with my wide receiver sit of the week. Dez Bryant. I mean, he's got the name you love and you want it, but he's got a bad matchup. 2, here's the stat you need to know the most.
A bad quarterback.
Well, yeah, he's got a bad matchup and a terrible quarterback. That's not a good combination, but he has what you want, which he just got 10 receptions. The only part that you don't want is that it took him 4 games. 4 games to get those 10 receptions.
I thought I had missed something.
Yeah, you didn't miss anything. Des Bryant missed something, or someone missed Des Bryant on a lot of throws. So you just can't be confident in starting him. His name, you've got to forget his name.
So why don't you just go on to your tight end since we're staying on the same team?
Yep, and likewise, speaking of the terrible quarterback, Jason Witten, why is he still started in almost 40% of leagues? There are other options. Jason Witten is not a guy in the fantasy playoffs you want. Now, he got 5 receptions last week. He got 5 receptions the week before. Those are numbers where, you care about targets. You care about receptions. They're using him. That seems good. But he hasn't had a touchdown since week 1. His yards with the new quarterback over the last 4 weeks, 27 yards, 36, 46, and 40. There's no touchdowns, no yards. He might get catches.
No upside.
No upside.
That's
0.
basically what you're saying.
Yeah, go with Richard Rodgers, who can explode.
Okay. I'm going to sit down Kyle Rudolph. I don't buy into any momentum with him. He got involved in that screen game against the Cardinals. He's had a couple good games in weeks past, but the Bears are solid against the tight end. Very solid. They're in the top 10 against tight ends, and I'm eliminating Kyle Rudolph because what he is he's not an auto start for anybody, but I'm eliminating from my consideration of a guy I want to stream out there.
All right, my take is a little hot, so you might want to put on your oven gloves.
Woo!
I'm sitting down Travis Kelce. I've had it.
Zeus.
I have had it. My man, Travis Kelce, if you've been with the show all year, you know my affection for the man known as Zeus, Travis Kelce. But here's the problem. Baltimore, their defense, they're still very good against guarding the tight end. And 2 weeks ago, Travis Kelce, in one of the most delicious, succulent, juicy matchups for tight ends against Oakland, he got 3 targets. He got 5 targets last week. They're just not getting him the ball. In the last 2 weeks, the situations were prime for Travis Kelce to be involved, and it's just not happening. So I'm sitting him down.
And they're winning games.
So let me ask you this then. Would you consider, we're almost at the end of the season. I'm sure we will have shows in which we do this in a more complete fashion, but is he on your list of disappointments?
Yes. He's on my list of disappointing just because of where I thought he could finish. I mean, he's still –
you and I guess we made a water bet about top
I thought
3.
he would be a top 3 guy, and he's still number 6 or 7 in your depending on your scoring format. because he was been getting yards. He just wasn't getting those big plays and wasn't getting touchdowns. But now he's just getting eliminated from the offense altogether. Sure, he could come out and have – if he has a big game this week, it would build that confidence back up. But I know that a lot of people, along with myself, they have to look at this decision every week. Travis Kelce or Jordan Reed? It's Jordan Reed.
That's what I was going to ask you is what other guys are they deciding between? And what about Kelce this week or Antonio Gates?
Ooh, what's the matchup for the Chargers?
Gates has the
it's
Dolphins.
better. I'm going with Gates.
Okay.
I'm going with Gates.
And Gary Barnidge is a guy that
Sure.
Zeus owners picked up, and you'd roll Barnidge.
That's a really good example. All right, let's go ahead and what are we doing here now?
The mailbag.
Oh, there's the button.
Mailbag.
Yeah, if you ever want to know what I'm doing, if I say a sentence like, what are we doing here now, that's because I'm looking for the button. I normally have those set up so perfectly, I misplaced it. You know where it was? What was on top of that button?
What?
Oh, the garbage man.
The garbage man has not come out for a while.
That's true.
We got to get that more involved.
Well,
That's one of my favorites.
I mean, Ronnie Hillman's production last week
Yeah.
was on. Well, I guess
What
it's not garbage.
production?
That's not really garbage time. That's
Well-
comeback. That's comeback time. By the way, I do disagree with you, Jason. I don't think that I don't think there's any chance the Denver Broncos Pittsburgh game is a high-scoring game.
No,
I think it's going to be a whooping.
by the standards,
by
the
Pittsburgh?
standards of Denver games, it will be a high-scoring game because all Denver games are low-scoring. Their defense is amazing, but that's the situation where you can run the ball. By their standards, there's going to be more points put up against them. That's
It
what I'm saying.
easily
31-13. That's my guess.
It easily could have been a high-scoring game last week. Osweiler had over 300 yards, and they had to settle for field goals. So you convert a couple of those field goals, and there's points.
It's going to be
on the board.
56-50. That's what's going to happen. All right, we're answering some questions here on the show today. It's our mailbag section. If you have a question for us, you can go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click the Submit a Question button. It is easy. If you've got a big Week 15 playoff matchup question, you need a helping hand, that is where you go. We have been answering questions. I don't remember what the number was. I think we've taken in about 18 to 20,000 questions this year, and we're here to deliver them. You can get questions answered real quick if you need them. Go to the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. Click on the Submit a Question button, and we will answer those for you. You can also call us on our voicemail line, 302-464-TFFB. Leave us a voicemail question. Let's go ahead and answer this one from Kajel?
Yeah, I was waiting for you to pronounce
Gel.
this.
Gel. I think that's the right way to say
Gel.
it. Gel in Washington. I have Gurley and Lamar Miller locked in for next week, but I can't decide on who to flex. Should my flex be Devontae Freeman at the Jaguars or David Johnson against the Eagles? Thanks for all the great advice this season. I couldn't have finished my first fantasy season 11-2 if it wasn't for the fantasy football.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
very
a
nice.
great question.
And to me, the Jaguars are actually a decent run defense. Atlanta is burning. Atlanta is burning to the ground. David Johnson is on the best offense in football. In a great matchup, I'm going David Johnson.
I second that. I'm going to go with David Johnson.
We've got a unanimous.
Incredible that we are
That's
saying
crazy.
that right now. Yeah. All right. E in San Francisco, please pick a running back and a flex. Javorius
Nope.
versus the Chiefs. Hightower versus the Lions.
Maybe.
Ryan Matthews against the Cardinals. Kamar Aiken against the Chiefs. Or Antonio Gates against the Dolphins.
I'm gonna.
It's very
Hightower's in. at
Hightower
running
is in
back.
for me too.
The question then is we have Matthews against a very stout run D. He's in a platoon. You got Javorius against the Chiefs. And you got Aiken against the Chiefs. So for me, Hightower is in automatically. I'm having a hard time with the flex.
I'm going with Gates.
Yeah,
it's a full point PPR. The Dolphins are not a good pass defense, and Phillip Rivers has to throw the ball to somebody.
I agree. I would go Gates here, but I wouldn't love it.
Gates or Aiken, I flip a coin on it.
Full point PPR, Kamar Aiken can be fine. He went up against the Seattle Seahawks this last week and got what, like 5 for 90?
5 for 90.
Yeah, and that was, if you watch the catches, those are Bon Jovi living on a prayer. Just Jimmy Clausen
Jump
saying,
balls.
please, Kamar Aiken, please.
Hey, he came down.
He did. So you're right. It could be, but I would go Gates. I'd
Sure.
go Gates.
Josh in Harrisburg, what's up?
Hey, Josh.
Hi.
He needs some help. Chandrone against the Bengals. Bilal Powell against the Cowboys, or Buck Allen against the Chiefs. He needs upside, and he's in a full PPR.
Full point.
Ooh.
Ooh, man.
So if you need upside in a full PPR, which guy are you really taking here? Is it Buck Allen because the workload's there?
No.
Could be.
I mean, you got 2 high workload guys in there, and I know he was. Man, for me, it's the Chandron or Bilal Powell for me. I'm trying to work out who I'd rather
It's between
play.
Bilal Powell and Buck Allen for me. I don't
So then
think
go
Drone-
Bilal Powell.
Here's what I'm going to take Buck Allen, and I'm going to tell you why. Because 2 weeks ago, he scored 30 fantasy points. And so, yes, none of these guys excite me with their matchups at all. But if you're talking about an upside, like I think all 3 of these guys are scoring 10 or less. So I'm going to take the guy who did it 2 weeks ago, and that's the only reason why.
Now,
That's
2 weeks ago,
that's my
Bilal
logic.
Powell also had 21, but I agree with your logic, and I am fine going with Buck Allen here.
I would not.
You would just sit them all.
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, who
go-
would you take then? Are you going to go Joan?
Yeah. I'm
So
gonna
we
stop.
just know.
Well,
Josh-
it's 2, but 2. You went 2 with Buck Allen, so you can go with
Yeah.
that.
Oh, okay. All right. Ralph in the semifinal.
You did not read that correct.
Okay. How do you read it?
Ralph in semifinal.
Oh, I didn't realize
It's
that.
in capital letters with exclamation points.
Look, that's
we
your
use,
job.
We use these things for a reason, so we can communicate tone of voice in the written language.
Is that what 3?
Andy.
That's what 3 exclamation points is.
Yes.
You back away from the mic, and it's more of an
Well, I
announcer
don't.
voice.
If I went my full voice into this precious microphone,
Our listeners' ears would explode.
everything would explode.
Melting brains.
All right. All right.
It would be Chernobyl.
Well, help.
It would be terrible for everyone, so I don't do it. You're welcome, America.
I feel like fantasy Chernobyl happened last week to my team. I'm going in. I'm going to be starting. Who's the bottom of the? Chris Polk is going to be my real key this week. I'm be starting some trash. All right, but I'm glad I'm in. All right,
Ralph.
Dez Bryant. He needs a flex.
Half point PPR.
He needs a flex. Half point PPR. Dez against the Jets. Gio against the 49ers. John Brown against the Eagles. I'm going John Brown.
John Brown all the way.
Yeah.
The Eagles have given up a lot of touchdowns. Carson Palmer's been on fire. This is the type of game that John Brown can get something.
It's a start your Cardinals weekend again, and John Brown has major upside.
I'm going to tell you what. I think Jeremy Hill's in my start of the week consideration, by the way.
Ooh.
Robert in New York.
From the cellar to the penthouse.
It happens. It's
Jeremy
called fantasy
Hill.
football. I learned it from the book Eddie Lacy Adventures.
It's a choose your own where you got to flip to page 65.
Yeah, I could take this joke for 10 minutes after you set that up, but I'm just gonna move on. That's one of the things we got to do here. Robert in New York. Man, I remember those books now. Now I'm thinking back. All right, Robert in New York with Dalton out. Should I start Tyler Eifert, assuming he plays, or Richard Rodgers against Oakland this week? That's a tough decision.
I don't think it's all that tough. If Tyler Eifert plays, I realize there's a change at quarterback, so you never know how it's gonna pan out. But Tyler Eifert to me is a much better physical talent player weapon than Richard Rodgers is. So I would go with Tyler Eifert.
I agree. And Rodgers crashed down to earth last week, even though he scored a touchdown, 1 catch, 2 yards, 1 touchdown. Exactly what we saw from him all year long. That one game was more anomalous.
If there's any Hail Marys going on in the Green Bay game, I'll go Richard Rodgers. But I can't predict those, so I'm going to go with
Hail
Eifert.
Mary leagues.
Yeah. Yeah, Hail Mary.
I think we said we'd start Cordell Stewart, Doug Flutie. Those guys would be in there. Hail Mary leagues. All right, Ben in Seattle. First, thanks for your awesome advice. Because of it, I've made the playoffs and got past the first round. Awesome.
Nice.
Way to go, Ben. Anyway, after Travis Kelce crapped the bed
Yeah.
against some good matchups, I can't trust him. Well, you just talked about this, right, in your sit. Would you start Zach Miller, Ben Watson, or Jacob Tammy over him?
I would.
Wow, that is rough. I would play
Ben. Well,
I'd play Ben Watson first,
It's
and then
Ben
Miller.
Watson. Ben Watson is at home against the Lions,
Yep.
a team that they could simply pack it in and show up, collect a paycheck, try not to get hurt.
Monday night,
And prime time.
prime time.
Drew Brees in prime time is fantastic for fantasy football, so that's where I would go.
I agree.
And I'd put Zach Miller second, personally.
Yeah, probably.
I'm fine with that. I don't love the matchup against the Vikings, but I like it better than against the Ravens for Travis Kelce.
All right, Tommy in Seattle. Okay, I'm not sure what to do at wide receiver. I am number 1 heading into a matchup against an up-and-coming team in my league. If you had to start 2, who would you choose between, I'm guessing that's Randall Cobb.
Is it?
That's Randall Cobb against the Raiders.
Okay.
Travis Benjamin against the Seahawks. Dez against the Jets. Aiken against the Chiefs. And Devontae Parker against the Chargers.
Oof.
I'll tell you
Cobb
right now,
is
I'm
in.
putting Cobb in
Cobb is in.
based on the new play calling, 8 catches last week. I think that I'm going to play Devontae Parker for upside at that point because of the
Wow.
snaps.
I agree.
Wow. I'm going to play Aiken, and here's why. Over Parker. Obviously, Cobb is in. He's the number 1 team heading into a matchup. It seems like
He's
is
the number
more,
1 team?
We said I am number 1 heading into a matchup.
Oh,
against
not
an
Aiken.
I got
up-and-coming
you.
team.
I thought you meant Aiken. I'm sorry.
The Ravens are number 1. Haven't you checked the standings?
So if he's favored, I think Aiken, he's going to at least get targets and
no,
work.
that's a good point.
So
That's a good point because Parker showed you he can give you 2 if their play calling
Yeah,
is
Ryan
what it was.
Tannehill, throw the ball to Parker.
if you
Very-
do need upside, Parker
Please.
would be the way to go.
All right, John in Toledo, which 2 wide receivers should I start this week? Well, okay. The first name is Odell Beckham Jr.,
Hey, he's in.
but he's against the Panthers, so there's hesitation.
Josh
People are
Norman, I
not sure. Calvin Johnson against the Saints. Everybody says the Saints stink. And Doug Baldwin against the Browns.
Oh man.
This is actually tougher, but I'm not sitting ODB.
I'm going Odell Beckham Jr.
Dougie Baldwin.
and
Yep.
Doug Baldwin.
Wow.
We are going to start
Wow.
Doug Baldwin.
You heard it here
Over
first.
Calvin.
Doug Baldwin over Calvin in a juicy match.
Calvin's finished.
Wow.
Man, I am having a hard time with that. I really am because
I have no problem doing that.
I actually think Calvin's going to have a good game. And not just because of the matchup, because I think they'll try
He
to
very
force
well-
feed him a
he
little
could
bit.
be. What's funny about the Calvin Johnson question, here I got to pull it up, but I was playing a game with the guys because we were trying to figure out our sits of the week, and it was, how bold do you go with the sit of the week?
At playoff time.
And so I gave him some statistics of this. I'm a player A. This is what I've done the last 2 weeks. 4 catches for 60 yards with only 1 touchdown. And that's Calvin Johnson.
Over the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good. And
That's-
like you said, they look like a team that kind of maybe moved on last week. That could be wrong. It could have been the matchup. Now you've got 2 teams that are not going to make the playoffs fighting against each other on Monday night. I think prime time for Calvin, that could bode well
Could,
for him. But, man, we just started Doug Baldwin, and I don't know how you don't. The guy's got 8 touchdowns in 3 games.
Against the Browns at home.
Peter in D.C., he needs to start 2, okay? Devontae Freeman against Jacksonville. Alshon Jeffrey against Minnesota. Mike Evans against St. Louis. Michael Floyd against Philadelphia. And he says, thanks for getting him to week 15 in the playoffs.
Excellent, Peter. It's a low-value PPR, 0.2, so that's not really in play here, catches.
For me, this one's not very hard. I'm playing Devonta Freeman, and I'm playing Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah, that's exactly. I was wondering if you were going to go Evans, but I think he's much less reliable than Jeffrey, so I'm definitely going Freeman and Jeffrey here.
I would go Jeffrey and Evans.
Yeah, Jeffrey was number 1 for me on that list. So
It's
I'm
really
not going to sit Freeman down, though.
I'm willing to sit him down because it's not a heavy PPR. It's actually very difficult for me to sit Michael Floyd versus Philadelphia. Like I said, 4 of his last 5 games, over 100 yards. And Larry Fitzgerald, it looks like he's slowing down with the possession. And this is a perfect matchup where Carson's going to go deep.
Well, Larry has 1. The Cardinals are the top offense with touchdowns every week, and he's only got 1. Larry does over like 8 weeks.
Yeah,
so
I'm
they're
just-
going somewhere else. Somebody's catching a touchdown.
When the matchup is they need to play underneath, that's when Larry excels and he gets his 8 to 10 catches that week. If you can go over the top, John Brown and Michael Floyd are worth playing.
Yeah. All right, Larry, by the way, Larry's the number 3 in the league in receptions this year behind Julio and then Antonio Brown. Mike in Gainesville, Florida. I need to play 2 running backs. I have the big salad, Sean Drone.
Yes.
Matt Forte, Latavius Murray, and Tim Hightower. This is interesting.
Half point PPR. Matt Forte is in.
For sure.
Yes, that is a done deal. Vikings are a little beat up. Forte's been playing very well.
For me, it's between Latavius Murray and Hightower.
Right. And I'm actually playing Hightower. That game's in Green Bay. I'm playing Hightower.
Ooh. Yeah, I can dig it. Hightower and Forte.
Yep, let's do it.
All right, Tim Hightower. Are you playing Tim Hightower this week against me, Jason?
I might be. We will. We'll post a picture
That'd be
of
very
our,
interesting.
of our somewhat set lineups today.
Well, I mean, the game's Monday night is what I mean. So you've got the potential to have, you're probably going to be down by 40, 50 points. Can Hightower bring you back on Monday Night Football? I can't wait to see how it plays out.
Yeah,
So-
we'll see.
We're in the semis now.
You know what, Andy? Let me just say this to you.
In our league of record, our league of pride.
One of us is going to the championship game. and I wish you the best. And if you win, I will be rooting for you for a championship. May the best team win this week.
What is going
He's
on?
being playing some kind of fantasy karmic game with
Gotta
me.
find the angle here. The look on his face says, I am not genuine. I'm going to
No,
sip.
the look on his
Really?
face says
Oh.
he's
I
kind
was
of just
trying to be as genuine
I
as
see
I could
through
be.
it. I see through the mask as you try and take a refreshing sip to hide your evil intentions.
Hey,
I have no
we'll
bad-
find out what happens. Thursday we got starts of the week. Come right back here, the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. We'll talk to you then.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another edition of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Don't forget to visit us on the web at www.thefantasyfootballers.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.